Hi everybody and welcome to Fauxropter. My name's John Dutton.
My name's Bobbie Gaucher.
And we're here today with a very special episode because for the first time, what's happening?
It feels like the first time.
It doesn't only feel like it. It actually is the first time that we are doing a word that was suggested by a listener.
So thank you very much, Melanie Coslin, for your suggestion. Today's word is...
original. So normally one of us has an idea of what we're going to be talking about when we have a word because one of us has thought up a word. And occasionally we talk about it a tiny bit ahead of time.
Sometimes it comes up in conversation and we stop the conversation so we can record a podcast instead. That's a really natural thing to do.
Yeah.
But today, a listener wrote into our Gmail, which again is fauxropter@gmail.com.
And with this word original that half an hour ago had me going... Well, I don't know what to say about that, but
That's the whole point, John.
Yes, except... Then I said, but people who suggest words should also give us some sort of clue as to why they're suggesting the word.
That's it. Thank you so much for writing in for the first time. Now we have more rules for you.
But you had some input.
Well, I think what original means to me, and especially in today's context, is it's very difficult to be original. However, people love using it as a label or a claim. So the first place where I think of original is the Original Gangster.
Oh, OG.
Yeah.
Is that the OG Original Gangster?
I don't know, but I've been having this argument with my dad for 15 years.
Because he is.
No, he's not the OG, and don't even give that to him. He thinks that Iced Tea is the OG, and I think that Ice Cube is the OG.
Oh, no, I'm going with the Iced Tea as well.
So I don't think so, because Ice-T is not a gangster. Gangster rap comes about with NWA, which therefore makes Ice Cube the OG because he was the original gangster.
I just remember about Ice-T, and I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging now, but I met Ice-T.
Are you kidding me?
Because I directed an interview with him when I used to work in TV.
God.
And he was very famous and banned from many radio stations in the States because he had a song called Cop Killer.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Right.
Okay, this was part of the
That
argument.
makes me feel like he was a gangster. But I feel like we're getting off track here. We're going more of the G part than the O part of OG right now.
Well, so I think that's what's important is you can't have two OGs.
Right. Okay, so I see what you're saying, that original is a thing, okay?
It's a claim.
It's a claim that it ties into authenticity, right, as well. Mm-hmm. Like it's very important for certain people to be or seem to be authentic in their either lives, real lives, or in their online lives.
And also, so I think art is a very important place to be original.
Yes. And in fact, especially visual art, yes, but in music too. And this kind of comes and goes in waves, right? Where in the, I don't know, before the Beatles, let's say, or before similar artists, singer-songwriters, people who were, even Elvis, he didn't write any of his songs. He was just a performer, right? All you were performers. So you weren't kind of authentic. Like
You
Frank
didn't
Sinatra.
have to have original songs.
No, you could be a pop star.
So Frank Sinatra's a fantastic example because a lot of his songs are also not original.
Yeah, well, no, almost, I don't think any of them. He's just a performer, just like Bing Crosby, like all those pop stars of the 40s and 50s, right? And then in the 60s, the whole idea of the singer-songwriter and being authentic and being writing original songs. That's where we can get back to our word original. Original songs came in, right? And then suddenly, if you didn't do that, then you were nothing.
Well, you're a sellout.
Yeah, you were a sellout or you were just not real, which is, you know, some bands were sort of manufactured. Like the Monkees, for example.
Hey, we're the Monkees.
Yeah. And people said they were monkeying around, and they were. They weren't original.
We have gotten to the bottom if they were monkeying
we're done.
around.
Episode's over. That's it. I think I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
So we've come to an interesting place in today's day. If you look at, I think actually in the last 5 to 10 years, 10 years might be stretching it, top 40 music is more original than it had been throughout the 90s and 2000s. The 90s are a phenomenal example for pop music because there was literally like a cookie cutter machine making boy bands and pop stars. Mm-hmm. And then the 2000s introduced kind of like the American Idol model where someone was taking you and crafting you into a star.
Yeah, also not particularly original.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. None of this is original.
Right.
It was a very cookie cutter. This is what people like. This is what we see in numbers. Here is what you are asking for. But I think in the last, like, I'd extend it to 10 years, but I'd say 5 years. There is kind of that callback to singer-songwriter, originality. Ed Sheeran is a great example of someone who is not cookie cutter at all, who is very proud of writing their own music and has become popular through that vein. But then, more interesting in the last 5 years, there's been a lot of interpolation on the radio.
Oh, yes. You're happy now, aren't you?
Oh, I'm happy about it.
Because interpolation is a term that's used increasingly. It has come to our attention because it came up with, well, Beyonce. It probably came up before, but it came up very specifically in a more high-profile way this summer with Beyonce, right? Because she interpolated so many different artists' songs on her Renaissance album that she had to she didn't have to. She wanted to, right?
Yeah, she had a song that credited 19 songwriters.
Something like that, right? So they weren't writing the song. They weren't all in a room together writing the song. It's that they were influences on Beyonce to the point where she redid. The one that I noticed when I heard a track was Donna Summer, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, it's doing Donna Summer. It's like literally pretending to be Donna Summer. It's like It's like performing the song in the way of the original artist. It's not doing a cover, right?
Yeah, and it's not a remix.
No, exactly, or a sample or anything. Those are different things. And this led to many big discussions. And then now, by the fall, it's become quite present in different sources that we've listened to or read, right?
Yeah. So I think it brings an interesting idea that music is becoming more and more nostalgic in the sense of using interpolation. But at the same time, you have the other side of the spectrum where it's becoming more original. And the outcry for originality, I think, is coming with the new generation. Mm-hmm. While it pains me to say the younger generation is more original than I was when I was younger, even if they're wearing the same jeans I was wearing in 2000.
Seems like a contradiction.
But they're using it in a way that is original. So I think kind of the interpretation, this idea that you can almost thrift different things from different generations to use it to be your own and be original is incredibly creative.
Yeah, and it's hard to have something completely original in the first place anyway, so why not, right? So it's almost like, so thrifting is almost like a fashion way of doing music sampling or interpolation or something.
Yeah. But
for clothes, right?
And I can't imagine how hard it must be to try and create space to be original nowadays. So if you are, well, I think creativity has a lot to do with originality too. It's a difficult word.
Oh, it's also, this is a complicated situation too if you look at digital art as well.
Oh, NFTs are my enemy.
And yeah, because if you look at NFTs, there's this whole idea that each one is unique, but they're also super not original because they're just churned out by artificial intelligence or something, variations on an ape or on a whatever, you name it. There's just a zillion different things, but then there's a limited edition of 10,000, right?
Well, and I think you touched on interpretation before, and I think that's interesting because so much of originality is an interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, you can, the whole history of art, if you go back, it's when you were the old masters, they were in schools learning from other masters and copying for years and years and years, right? And then it's only once you've copied and learned how to do it that you can then be original. It's only with modern art, meaning from,
like Jason Pollock and stuff.
Well, I would have gone back to the French.
Jackson Pollock, son of a gun.
Yeah. Jason was his less well-known brother. No, I'm thinking more like the Impressionists and then the Cubists and people like this in France before that, right? It's suddenly, now we can be mega original and then original. So it's almost like in visual art. I mean, I'm making it sound like I'm some sort of art history expert, not at all. But it feels like what happened in the 60s with music, pop music, happened with art maybe, almost 100 years before that.
But I think it's cyclical, because I think you could argue that with philosophy. I think you could argue with science. You can argue it kind of across any genre of life. That there's originality periods, copying periods, then kind of like it exhausts itself.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And somewhere like it's just cyclical, that you need something new, that you're very comfortable with whatever you've produced.
Could I suggest a metaphor of ebb and flow instead of cyclical? Just putting that out there.
All right.
Because I don't feel like it goes in cycles as much as just ebbs and flows. Like it sort of comes and goes. like it becomes more original or less original.
The terminology is going to matter at the end of the day.
We're getting way away from original right now.
I'm bringing you right back, because I think a definition for original would have to be argued, because nothing isn't original, because everything and everyone has influence.
Here's a thought. You brought up science. In terms of evolution, the only reason we're here now, and this was touched upon in the reincarnation episode, if you guys want to go back and listen to that, was that we are all just reincarnations of the very first, life form, right? It just keeps on getting reborn, evolving. But the point is, if listeners, you can't see that Bobbie is rubbing her fingers together in an evil Mr. Burns way, because she's waiting for me to finish talking, but maybe I should just keep going. The thing that I was going to say was genetic mutations that provide the creative fuel behind evolution are by definition original, though.
But I would say that cell's the OG.
That the cell, the OG cell, the tiny blob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a blob.
That's my rap name, by the way.
Tiny Blob. That's so weird. My rap name's Tiny Bob.
Oh, there you go. Should do.
Let's hit the road.
Why were you rubbing your fingers together in an evil Mr. Burns way?
Because as you started to talk about us all going back to one cell, I was like, that solves the OG argument right there. Ice-T and Ice Cube are one of the same being. You could put them in the same cup.
Yeah. You can melt them down. I have nothing else to say about this.
I have one more thing to say about it. Because I think we have to talk about original ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't in the sense of just, like, you wake up one day and you're like, I have an original idea. If you look at science or politics or philosophy, did John Locke wake up one day and he's like, I figured it out? Or did Kant wake up one day and he's like, got it, figured out my original idea?
I feel like John Locke woke up one day and went, I have unlocked the secrets to philosophy. And I feel like Kant woke up and went, yes, I can.
Okay.
I'm done.
Fine. But you can read these people's work.
Ja, I can. Ja, ich kann.
Really nailed that one. So you can see that these people's ideas aren't original, because you can see their vast work and you can see how they get to this idea, but it's kind of, they follow a train of thought.
They're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's something that, was it Newton who said, or somebody after him? A famous philosopher said that, and that is absolutely true. But you know what? Newton is a perfect example of what you're talking about, because Newton and Leibniz, if I'm, again, no expert in the history of science, but I believe they both independently invented calculus in the 17th century.
That's awesome.
Or was it the 18th? Around then, a while ago. They were wearing them wigs,
Yeah.
And yeah, they had quills and ink and stuff, and probably slates and chalk. And using those tools, they both independently, they absolutely did invented it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like arguing about it for a while, but the reality was, it was just kind of time to invent it.
Yeah. But so I think that's my point on original thoughts. Yes, they're original and you can have new ideas, and there's nothing, like, I'm not saying there's never going to be an original thought, but I think it's a train of thought that's influenced by so many factors that it's not necessarily original, but I'm not unhappy when people use the word original.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the last time I used the word original.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it could be used in like a snarky way. Oh, that's so original.
I would never do that.
No, I wouldn't either. But I mean,
I don't know.
I feel like
it rolled off your tongue real quickly.
I feel like I might have when I was younger and annoying.
The only thing that I can think of like recently that I saw and was really original was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Right. Yeah, but it's easy to say that it was original in a way, but again, it does back up what you're saying, really. It's not like the first film that ever had like different strands of people's reality. I could
probably tell you like the other 6 movies that were playing at that cinema, 3 were like new generation films that were already redone. Right. Top Gun was out this summer.
Completely not original at all.
Yeah. Right. A different Marvel movie. Yeah. A horror movie, which is in its like 4th generation.
There's always going to be something in art like that seems very original when it comes out, like The Catcher in the Rye or something, whatever. Like there's going to be somebody who manages to be more original than your average at the time, because that's just the way it goes, because there's an ebb and a flow.
Yeah. So I have a final question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that something that is more original is necessarily better than something that is less original?
No, that's just it. And I probably would have said the opposite to that when I was young.
Yeah, I think so too.
Being original automatically meant it was better.
Yeah, I really appreciate originality, and I can see how difficult it can be to get there, but I don't think it necessarily makes anything better.
No, I don't.
And I don't think you should strive for it.
I was just going to say, striving for originality has no particular value.
But striving for authenticity does.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a different episode.
And we'll see you then, guys.
So, guys, is that what we're calling our...
And gals.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of guys and gals.
Look at you with your show tunes.
I also sung more this episode than normal.
I'd say 3 times more. Speaking of singing, YouTube. We've never mentioned this before, but if a lot of people like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, and our podcast has been on YouTube from day one, and we keep forgetting to mention it. So you can just look up Fauxropter on YouTube.
And you'll get there.
It's at Fauxropter, and you'll see all of our episodes. There aren't any images to go along with it. We're not installing cameras here or anything.
Not yet. But maybe, if you really start watching on YouTube, maybe.
I tell you what, if we hit, what should we say, like 1 million?
No way.
Why not? Let's just say it. If we hit, let's say, if we hit 1,000 subscribers, which right now we have like 10 or something.
Yeah.
We'll do an episode that's filmed, just one, and then because we've got to keep people incentivized to go up a notch each time.
That's what we're all about here at Fauxropter, going up a notch.
Incentivization.
You'll hear us next time, and we can't wait.
Okay, well, thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for the listener. Yep.
Thank you again, Melanie Coslin. That's so nice. Thanks for listening.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye.